When my mom told me to stay home, I didn't argue. She stood by the door with her glossy suitcase, my sister already in sunglasses, taking selfies beside Dad's new travel bag. Only close ones are going, Mom said lightly, her voice sugar-coated but sharp underneath. I just nodded. Something inside me went very still. They were going to the Maldives. A dream vacation we used to talk about as a family when I was little. The turquoise water, the white villas, the infinity pools that looked like the sky itself. But now I was just not close enough. So I stayed home. I did the laundry. Fed the cat. Watched the photos pop up online. All smiles, matching outfits, captions about family love. And I told myself it was fine. I told myself maybe I really was the distant one. They returned a week later. Tanned, happy, glowing like people who'd lived inside a postcard. Mom came to my room the next morning with a folder. Her tone was strange. Careful, too careful. Sweetheart, she said, you'll need to sign these. Just some technical papers from the bank. I took the folder. My name was printed on top. A loan agreement for 10 million. My chest turned cold. What is this? Mom smiled too quickly. It's just for a little investment. We'll pay it back in no time. You don't even need to worry. But I didn't hear the rest. Because I had already seen the stamp, the forged signature. My own name, written in handwriting that wasn't mine. She kept talking, spinning lies about business partners and future returns. And I just listened, silent, my fingers tracing the paper, memorizing every word she said. Inside my pocket, my phone was recording. I had started the recording the moment she walked in. I don't even know why. Instinct maybe. A small voice inside me whispering, don't trust this moment. She handed me a pen, but I didn't take it. Instead, I smiled softly, meeting her eyes. I think I'll sign later, Mom, I said. And she nodded, still pretending everything was fine. When she left, I sat there alone, the folder heavy in my lap, her words echoing in my head. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe for a long time. I just pressed play and listened to her own voice, crystal clear, confessing everything she'd just tried to hide. My name is Elena. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been treated like a stranger in your own family? I didn't sleep that night. The house was too quiet, filled with the hum of the refrigerator and the echo of my mother's voice from the recording. Just sign it, sweetheart. It's for the family. For the family. Those words looped in my head until they lost all meaning. The next morning, Dad was in the living room scrolling through his phone. He didn't even look up when I walked in. My sister, Mia, was beside him, showing off her tan like it was a trophy. I just stood there watching them, wondering how long they'd planned it. Morning, Dad muttered. His voice was casual, like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't just tried to bury me under 10 million in debt. I sat down across from him. Dad, I said quietly, what's this loan in my name? His eyes flicked up for a second, then away again. Oh, that. Your mom's handling it. Don't worry yourself about adult stuff. The stuff. I almost laughed. They still thought I was the naive daughter, the quiet one who'd always do as told. I pulled the folder from my bag and placed it on the coffee table. The papers were neatly stacked, the loan stamp glowing red like a wound. Mia frowned. What's that? Proof, I said softly. Of how much trust you think I owe you. Mom appeared from the kitchen then, wearing her robe and a bright fake smile. Oh, Elena, you're up early. I cut her off. When did you plan to tell me? Before or after you used my name to secure 10 million rupees? Her smile faltered. Dad's phone froze in his hand. Elena, sweetheart, it's not like that, Mom began, voice trembling now. Complicated. You have a stable record and the bank. The bank. I interrupted. You mean the bank that called me yesterday to confirm repayment terms? Her face drained of color. For a moment no one spoke. Mia looked between us, confused. Mom, what's she talking about? Mom inhaled shakily. Mia, go upstairs. But I didn't let her leave. Let her stay, I said. She should see what family loyalty looks like. I picked up my phone, opened the recording app and pressed play. Her voice filled the room, calm, manipulative, damning. Every lie. Every word about using my name because hers wouldn't get approved. Dad's jaw locked. Mom's hands trembled. And for the first time I saw something like fear in her eyes. I stopped the audio halfway through. Then I stood. "I'm not signing anything," I said. "And you're going to fix this. Every part of it." Mom reached for me, desperate now. "Elena, you don't understand. We were going to." "No," I said quietly. "You don't understand. You picked the wrong daughter to steal from." Then I walked out. No yelling. No tears. Just silence. The kind that shakes the walls when the truth finally arrives. That night, I backed up the recording, sent a copy to my lawyer friend from university, and wrote one line in my notes app. "If they want war, I'll start with evidence." The lawyer I'd messaged that first night called me back before dawn. "Don't delete anything," she said. "Back everything up. Then come to the bank with me." It sounded like an order, and for the first time since the folder I wanted someone to give me orders. We went to the branch together. I walked in feeling oddly exposed, like the air itself had been stamped with my name. The teller recognized me, probably from Mom's smiling vacation photos, and offered polite condolences for my stress. I handed over my ID and the folder, and the lawyer asked to see the loan file. Banks move slow when trust is involved, but paperwork moves faster than excuses. The loan officer produced copies of the application, the signed agreement, and the disbursement slip. The signature on the application looked like mine at a glance. Same loops, same slanted tail on they. But the examiner across the table, older and steady, didn't look like he took glances. He placed a magnifier over the signature. "This was traced," he said. "There are micro-corrections here. The pressure pattern doesn't match your file signatures." He turned to me. "We ran a check against signatures you've used at this bank. This one is inconsistent." My stomach dropped. It was worse and more precise than I'd imagined. Not a careless theft but a crafted forgery. Someone had taken the time to imitate my hand. "Who did the funds go to?" my lawyer asked. The teller tapped keys, pulled up the ledger. The $10 million had been disbursed within 48 hours of the application's approval. It moved through a corporate account and then split across 3 smaller transfers. The receiving company name was listed as Aquaventure Holdings, a registered LC I'd never heard of. "Can we see the ID used to open that receiving account?" my lawyer asked. The officer hesitated, then printed a copy. A scanned CV with a photo, a name I half knew from neighborhood dinners. Arif Khan, someone Dad sometimes clapped on the back with a business card. Arif from logistics. I felt the room tilt. Dad's laugh in the pictures, Mom's voice on the recording, Mia's sun-flaunted selfies. They all recombined into something I didn't recognize. The bank ran an internal trace of the transfers. The funds had been moved out of Aquaventure and funneled through 3 different banks in 2 days. "That's usually how people try to hide origins," the officer said. "Layering. Small accounts, then out." We left the branch with copies of everything and a plan. Freeze any remaining linked accounts, file a criminal complaint, serve notices to the corporations involved. My lawyer's face was all business, but when she said, "This will get messy," I heard pity. Back home, I replayed the recording again, searching for tones I'd missed. In the background at one point, under my mother's voice, I could hear a muted chuckle, too casual to be phone static. I scrubbed the audio, amplified the frequencies, and there it was. A single name, laughed off almost like an afterthought. "Arif," my mother had said, softer than the rest. I felt cold and very small. I'd walked into their scheme as a passport, a name to open a door. But who had handed them the key? Who had given them access to the identity they needed to forge my signature, to pass documents in my name? I called Dad's office number. No answer. I texted Mia, asking a simple question. "Did you know an Arif Khan?" Her reply was blue dots for a long time, then a short, "Why?" Before I could send anything more, a new message arrived on my phone from an unknown number. "Stop digging, Elena. You don't know what you're stirring." I read it twice, the letters refusing to become less real. Someone who knew my name, my moves, and what I'd start doing next. I pressed play on the recording again, louder this time, and listened for a voice I hadn't noticed. A voice that might tell me who else was smiling during our Maldives photos. The line in the recording that followed her laugh wasn't a name at all but a place. Aquaventure. We'll move it today. My hands shook as I dialed the unknown number back. The call dropped immediately, disconnected before it rang. I looked at the folder on my bed, at the red bank stamp, at the quiet house where my family pretended nothing had happened. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the company registry. Aquaventure Holdings had been registered less than 6 months ago. The listed director was a name I'd never heard. The address, however, was a P.O. box near the same suburb where Dad's office parking lot was located. I was close enough to reach for the phone when the front door clicked. Footsteps came down the hall. The footsteps stopped outside my room. A soft knock. Elena. Mom's voice, cautious, uncertain. Can we talk? I minimized the company registry tab and took a slow breath. Come in. She stepped inside, still in her silk robe, perfume layered too thick, the kind she wore when she was nervous. Her hands twisted around a mug she wasn't drinking from. I know you're angry, she began, but you're digging into things you don't understand. I stared at her. Then make me understand. She didn't answer right away. Her gaze darted around the room, at my laptop, my phone, the printed documents on my desk. Elena, what are you doing with these? Protecting myself, I said simply. From my own parents. Her face crumpled, a flash of guilt, but only for a second. Then she straightened, defensive again. It wasn't supposed to hurt you. We were just rearranging finances. You wouldn't have lost anything. I laughed softly. Except my entire name. Her voice wavered. You think I wanted this? Your father. Stop, I said. Don't make this about him. You signed it too. Silence stretched between us like glass. Then she whispered, we were in trouble, Elena. Your father's logistics partner, Arif, he made a bad deal. We needed collateral fast or we'd lose everything. So you used me. She looked down. You're the only one with clean credit. Mia's still in school. And I thought it was temporary. Just paperwork. 10 million isn't paperwork, Mom. Her jaw clenched. It was supposed to be fixed before you even knew. Except I found out. And now, she said sharply, you're making things worse. You've involved people who don't care about family. I tilted my head. You mean lawyers? No, she whispered, eyes flicking toward the window. People like Arif. For the first time I saw something like fear in her. Real fear. He's not just a partner anymore, she said. He's dangerous. The money, it isn't ours to give back. I leaned forward. So you forged my name and made me responsible for his debt? Her silence was answer enough. Where's Dad? I asked. At his office, she murmured. Trying to fix this. I stood. Then I'll go talk to him myself. Her eyes widened. No. Elena, listen to me. But I was already past her, the hallway echoing under my feet. Outside, the morning heat felt heavier than usual. I drove straight to Dad's logistics warehouse, a wide, gray building near the industrial district. I'd been there a few times as a kid, back when he used to show me the forklifts like they were toys. Now I parked at the edge of the lot and watched. Arif Khan was there. I recognized him immediately, tall, sharp suit, gold watch, the kind of grin that hides knives. He stood beside Dad, both talking quietly near a truck being loaded. I zoomed in with my phone camera and hit record. Arif handed Dad an envelope. Dad took it without looking up, just folded it and pocketed it. The body language was clear. Submission. Arif was in control. When Dad turned toward the office door, I saw his face fully. Not the calm, steady father I remembered, but a man drowning, hollow-eyed, wearing guilt like a second skin. That's when Arif looked straight at my car. For a second I thought he couldn't see me through the tinted windows, but he smirked. A slow, knowing smirk. Then he mouthed 2 words. Stop digging. The same message I'd received last night. My stomach twisted. I drove away before Dad could notice me, my pulse hammering. Back home I rewatched the footage and listened to the old audio again, overlaying the two. The timestamps matched. The recording of Mom saying Arif, and the day the money was transferred. It was clear now. This wasn't just a family betrayal. It was a full-scale setup. Mom had forged my signature. Dad had surrendered to debt. And Arif had made me the fall girl for 10 million. I looked at my reflection in the laptop screen. Eyes tired, steady, no tears left. If they wanted war, they'd have it. But not with noise. Proof. I opened a new folder on my computer and named it Inheritance of Lies. Inside it, I placed everything: the loan, the recordings, the photos, the footage. Then I created one more file, a confession draft. Not for me. For them. I told myself I wouldn't let anger lead. Strategy would. Anger brightens like a flare and burns you blind. Strategy is patient, slow and surgical. I needed both. Step 1 was containment. My lawyer friend Aisha helped me file an emergency injunction to freeze any account linked to the application. It wasn't dramatic, just a lawyerly stack of motions, signatures and official stamps. But it bought me time. Time was the one thing Arif relied on. Move the money, dissipate the trail, and the case goes cold. Blocking those channels forced the fight back into daylight. Step 2 was hard proof. The bank's handwriting analyst confirmed the forgery, but that alone wouldn't topple a man who'd already bought so many favors. So I hired a forensic accountant recommended by Aisha, a woman who smelled of coffee and numbers, who looked at spreadsheets like others looked at faces. She pulled the transfer logs, traced the layering through 2 smaller banks and a private transfer network. She found patterns: timing, recurring microtransfers, a nominee company that evaporated the night the money landed. Nothing cinematic, just arithmetic that exposed intent. Step 3 was social architecture. People like Arif live in reputations. I made his reputation fragile. I quietly spoke to vendors at Dad's warehouse, to a delivery driver who'd signed for a package last month, to a receptionist at one of Arif's shell companies. Little questions: who comes by? Who signs off? The receptionist remembered a name. The driver remembered a license plate. Each small answer became a thread. I also pulled Mia in carefully. She was furious and ashamed and still loved them, so she was volatile, useful and dangerous. I asked her for one thing: distance. No public posts, no sympathetic family messages, no sharing of photos. She agreed, and that refusal to participate in their staged grief cut the oxygen from their performances. Legally, Aisha filed criminal charges for identity fraud and money laundering and served notices to Aquaventure. We gave the prosecutor a tidy package: the forged documents, the audio recording, the bank traces, witness statements. The prosecutor's office moved slower than I wanted, but they moved. Subpoenas, interviews, the sort of motions that make men with money notice when they have to explain themselves in public. But legal paper can be delayed or bought. I needed something immediate, a sting that would expose the mechanics and the men behind them. That's where the decoy came in. I created an investment lead, a phony opportunity so believable that Arif wouldn't refuse. A small consortium supposedly looking to buy Aquaventure's logistics arm. An offer large enough to interest him, quiet enough to keep eyes off the street. I used an email burner, a registered shell number, and a staged website with plausible empty bios. It was a lie built from truth. Industry lingo, a realistic term sheet, a phone number that led to Aisha's private line with a disguised voice. The bait was set. I sent the message to Arif's registered contact and watched. He took it. He called within 48 hours. When he asked to meet, I asked for a neutral place. A cafe by the river, crowded, glass windows, people who would notice if things went sideways. I told Aisha and the forensic accountant to come as investors. I told the bank investigator to be on standby. I told Mia to stay home and lock the doors. And then, on the morning of the meeting, 2 things happened that made my chest tighten. Dad called, voice brittle, asking if I'd thought of another way to handle this quietly, and an anonymous envelope appeared under my door with one line inside: stop, or someone you love will be collateral. I folded the paper, pressed my thumb to the crease, and slid it into the folder labeled Inheritance of Lies. I walked out of the house toward the river cafe with a recorder in my pocket, a plan in my head, and a quiet knowledge that the next hour would decide whether we played for evidence or for blood. The cafe was glass and light, a place where no one could whisper without being seen. Outside, the water moved slow and gray under the bridge. I chose a seat near the window. The recorder in my pocket was already running. Aisha sat across from me, pretending to scroll her phone. Our investor, the forensic accountant, arrived 5 minutes later. Tailored jacket, calm eyes, every inch the professional buyer. The air smelled of coffee and rain. I kept checking the door. Then he walked in. Arif Khan, polished as ever, the same gold watch, a smirk that could slice marble. My father trailed behind him, his face pale, eyes fixed on the floor. Elena, Arif said, voice smooth as oil. Didn't expect to see you here in person. I thought you'd send your little lawyer. Aisha smiled politely. We believe in transparency. He sat. Dad hesitated, then followed. I didn't look at him. Arif leaned back, studying me. So, you're interested in buying out Aquaventure. That's impressive, considering you barely have 10 million to your name. His words were bait, testing me. I let the silence stretch, then said evenly, I have enough to know what's mine. He chuckled. You think that recording of your mother means anything? Families lie. It won't hold in court. I reached into my bag and set a USB drive on the table. That's what I thought too, I said. Until I traced the money. He blinked once, too controlled, too quick. Aisha leaned forward. We followed every transfer from the forged loan through 3 shell accounts. 2 of them terminate in your company, Mr. Khan. Arif's expression didn't change, but his fingers flexed slightly against the cup. Careful, counselor, he said softly. Defamation's a nasty thing. Not when it's true, Aisha replied. Dad looked between us like a man watching his own house burn. Elena, please. You don't know what he's capable of. Oh, I know, I said quietly. That's why I invited him here. For a moment no one moved. Arif's jaw tightened. You made a mistake coming here. I smiled faintly. No. You did. When you used my name. At that moment the forensic accountant's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then at me. They're in, she whispered. The bank investigator had executed the final piece. A live freeze order on Arif's accounts, filed under suspicion of fraud and money laundering. Every rupee tied to the forged loan was now locked, pending investigation. I watched realization settle over his face. That calm, smug control he wore cracked like glass. You think freezing funds scares me? He said, standing. You don't understand how deep this goes. Then educate us, Aisha said. He laughed, but it was tight. You have no idea who you're playing with. I stood too. Maybe not. But I know how to record everything you say. I tapped my pocket, a small gesture, but his eyes flicked down, registering it. Outside, police sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Arif's gaze darted toward the sound, then back at me. This isn't over, he hissed. I know, I said softly. That's why I'm just getting started. He left first, brushing past Dad, who couldn't even look at me. Aisha waited until the door closed, then exhaled slowly. They'll detain him before the day's over. But I wasn't watching Arif. I was watching my father, the way his hands trembled, the guilt etched deep into his face. Why? I asked. He swallowed hard. He owned me, Elena. I made a mistake years ago. Took his money to keep the business afloat. I thought I could fix it before you ever knew. And Mom. She thought we could hide it together. She didn't want to lose you too. She already did. He reached for me, but I stepped back. When I left the cafe, the rain had started, thin and gray, washing the glass until everything blurred. I thought it would feel like victory. It didn't. It felt like a wound finally exposed to air. That night I uploaded all the evidence, audio, documents, video, into a shared cloud drive labeled Truth Archive. I sent copies to every major business news outlet in the city. No demands, no explanation. Just a single note attached. This is how family debt is built. Then I turned off my phone, locked the door, and waited for the noise that would follow. It didn't take long. By morning the story was everywhere. By sunrise my name was on every screen. The story had broken wide open. Family loan forgery uncovered. Daughter exposes fraud ring tied to logistics firm. News anchors said my name like it belonged to them, their voices clipped and curious. They didn't know the house behind those headlines was still standing, barely, with 3 people inside who hadn't yet realized what exposed really meant. Mom called first. 10 missed calls before 8 a.m. I didn't answer. Then a message. Please, Elena. They're coming for your father. They. Not the police. Not the bank. Just they. Told me everything I needed to know. By the time I reached their house, reporters were outside, cameras flashing like lightning. I walked straight through them, calm, quiet, the way you walk through fire after you've stopped fearing the burn. Dad sat in the living room, head in his hands. Mom was pacing, mascara streaked, the TV blaring a news clip of her own face. When she saw me, she froze. What have you done? Fixed your mistake, I said. She pointed at the screen, her voice cracking. You ruined us. Do you have any idea what people are saying? Yes, I said. The truth. Dad lifted his head. Elena, please. The police. They're doing their job, I said coldly. Something you should have thought of before signing my name. He looked smaller now, older, the kind of man who'd been holding up lies for too long. I tried to protect this family, he whispered. We were drowning. No, I said. You were comfortable watching me sink instead. Mom grabbed my arm, desperate. We'll lose everything. The house, the company. You already lost me. She stared at me then, not as her daughter but as the storm she never saw coming. Outside, car doors slammed. Uniforms. Voices. The sound of control returning to the world. The police entered with quiet authority, their tone calm but final. They spoke to Dad first. Mr. Malik, you're under arrest for financial fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to defraud the state. He didn't fight. He didn't even speak. Just nodded once like a man too tired to pretend. When they let him out, Mom lunged forward. Please, he's sick, he just needs time. One of the officers held her back. Ma'am, you can come with us to the station if you wish to give a statement. Her eyes darted to me. Elena, do something. I looked at her, the same woman who told me I wasn't close enough to be part of the family. Now she was begging for closeness she'd burned away herself. I did, I said softly. I told the truth. They took them both. The cameras outside caught everything. The flashing lights, the doors closing, the chaos that followed. But I didn't stay to watch. I walked past the reporters, through the rain-soaked lawn, down the street that once led me home. At the corner, my phone buzzed again, an unknown number. For a heartbeat, I thought it might be Arif. But the text was from Aisha. He's gone. Arif fled last night. Airport security found his car abandoned. We'll catch him, but he's running scared. I exhaled slowly. That was enough. For now. That evening, I sat by my window as thunder rolled far away. The city lights blinked faintly through the mist, and I realized something strange. Revenge doesn't always feel like triumph. Sometimes it feels like silence, the kind that comes after a long scream. I opened my laptop and scrolled through the archive one last time. Every file, every photo, every line of betrayal. All preserved, documented, and out of my hands. Mia came into the room quietly. She hadn't said much since it all broke. Are you okay? She asked. I turned to her and smiled faintly. I'm free. She nodded, eyes wet. What happens now? I looked out at the dark street, the flashing sirens fading into distance. Now, I said, we finish it. Because there was still one person left. The man who thought he could vanish with 10 million and no consequence. Arif Khan. And I had something he didn't. His voice. In one of the recordings, buried beneath my mother's panic, his voice was there. A single line I hadn't noticed until Aisha amplified the audio. Once it's in her name, she's the one they'll come for. He was wrong. They were coming for him. 2 weeks after the arrests, silence had become my closest friend. The house felt lighter, like it had been holding its breath for years and finally exhaled. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because Arif was still out there. The man who'd started it all, who'd treated my identity like a pawn in his desperate game. I spent days tracing his trail. Every bank transfer, every call, every whisper of movement. And then one night Aisha called. He's in Dubai. Using a fake passport. But the audio you have. It's admissible here. And the fraud crossed borders. If we act fast we can freeze him out. I remember staring at the city lights outside my apartment window, the reflection of my face in the glass. Tired, older but sharper than I'd ever been. Do it, I said. And she did. By morning his accounts were gone. Seized, flagged or frozen under joint investigation. He'd spent 10 million to vanish, but in 48 hours he had nothing but his passport and fear. Then came the message. A private number. A voice note. I hit play. You win, Elena. You think this makes you better than them? You think any of you will walk away clean? I smiled. A slow, quiet kind of smile. Not clean, I whispered to myself. Just awake. I uploaded his voice to the same archive that had burned through the internet. The daughter they tried to erase. Within hours the clip spread like fire. Once it's in her name she's the one they'll come for. It played on every platform, every news feed, every podcast dissecting betrayal and bloodlines. Arif didn't vanish again. Interpol caught him at a private dock 3 days later, trying to board a freight vessel under another alias. When they led him away the camera flash caught his eyes, and in them I saw what he'd never expected. Someone else writing the ending. A month passed. The house was sold. The company dismantled. Me. I moved into a small apartment overlooking the harbor. Quiet, empty but honest. Sometimes I sit by the window at night and watch the ships glide under the moonlight. Each one carrying strangers away from the lives they used to know. And I think about my family, where they are, what they tell themselves in the silence that follows truth. Mom writes from prison sometimes. Small notes. Always ending with, I didn't know it would go this far. I don't reply. Not because I'm cruel but because forgiveness isn't a gift. It's a boundary. Aisha visited last week. We drank tea on the balcony while the wind moved softly through the curtains. You did what most people never have the courage to, she said. You walked through hell and built your own door out. I looked at her and smiled faintly. No, I said. I just stopped pretending the fire wasn't real. We sat in silence after that. Not heavy, not painful, just peace. The kind that comes when every secret has been burned and only the truth remains. Before she left, she turned back at the door. So what now? I looked past her to the horizon glowing faintly gold. Now, I said softly, I live slow. She nodded, smiling. You deserve that. Maybe I do. Because revenge, when it's real, isn't about winning. It's about walking away, untouched, unbent, unafraid. I turned off my phone that night. No headlines, no notifications. Just the hum of the city and the slow rhythm of my breathing. And for the first time in years I felt weightless. The moon hung over the harbor like a quiet witness. I whispered into the dark. My name is Elena Malik. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Pause. Then a faint smile.